Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Monday.
Good morning to you. It is Monday, the 30th of September. This is Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. The minimum price of alcohol has just gone up in Scotland from 50p a unit to 65p. A bottle of vodka will now cost £5 more in a shop in Scotland than the rest of the UK. Health Minister Neil Gray says it is saving lives.
We have saved hundreds of lives, 13% reduction in deaths and a 4% estimated realisation.
Well, are we on the right path to tackle alcohol harm? 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call. Also coming up between now and noon.
I'm getting a bit old and there are places I want to go to and other things I want to do.
That's cooking legend Dame Prue Leith on why life is too short to stuff a mushroom. We have a regular Monday game of Where is Simon?
Live from BBC Pacific Quay.
Across the United Kingdom and the world.
This is what they want.
This.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
So Dame Prue Leith is joining us next. She is, of course, the queen of the kitchen, but she says, you know, sometimes you have to go for the no-fuss option. Life is too short, she says. I like her thinking. Life is too short to stuff a mushroom. What do you stuff a mushroom? What do you stuff a mushroom with? Could anyone please help me out with this? What is it? Nobody can help me out with this. There we go. 80295. Garlic. Somebody just screamed in my ear. Garlic. Okay then. Here's the Pet Shop Boys. There you go, the Pet Shop Boys there with the incomparable Dusty Springfield. How could I have forgotten Dusty Springfield? Talking incomparable. That's twice I've said that word successfully in quick succession, which I'm very pleased about myself. She is the queen of the kitchen, the grande dame of the bake-off tent. But Dame Prue Leith is sharing a surprising truth in her latest book, and that is that life is too short to stuff a mushroom. People are coming in with suggestions. Thank you very much. Apparently lots of garlic, lots of cheese. Sorry, I didn't know that. It's music to my ears, of course, but apparently you can make, according to Prue Leith, really good food without the fuss. And she's here to tell us how. Good morning, Prue.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is my level of culinary skills, Prue. I didn't know what you stuffed a mushroom with.
Yeah, it's true. You usually chop up mushrooms and use them to stuff other things.
Oh, you use mushrooms to stuff mushrooms?
You know what? It's a quote from Shirley Conran. And
Yes.
I was a great admirer of Shirley Conran. She was one of those women she was always colourfully dressed. She was always a bit extreme. She didn't care what she said.
Yeah.
She was right out there. And she was very fashionable and
Yeah, she was quite a trailblazer. She was.
She was, and she wrote a couple of really good books, and in one of them, Superwoman was her most famous book. She basically was saying to women, you can, don't stress. Nobody can do everything perfectly. Just do your best and don't worry about it. And she used this phrase, life's too short to stuff a mushroom.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great sentiment, and it's one that I certainly ascribe to because I don't spend a lot of time in the kitchen. But having said that, you're a fabulous cook. And for many people, men and women, they love cooking and they want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So I'm surprised to hear you sort of say, do you know what? Go the no fuss option.
No, I know, but I think it's very interesting because I absolutely love cooking, and I recognise that lots of people don't love cooking. So it's partly for them, but it's also for people like me, because however much you might love cooking, life is very short these days. I'm very busy, and everybody's busier. For some reason, the whole world is much busier, and just much more difficult. I mean, if you think, even when I was at what I thought of as my busiest, when I was opening my restaurant and I had two young children, and I had 3 businesses to run, I still seem to have time to play croquet on the lawn with them and to have picnics and to cook a lot. I don't know. I think I just seems to run out of a lot of time.
Yeah. I think lots of people will relate to that. And the thing about cooking, even for those people who do enjoy it, if you're short of time and in a rush and under pressure, then it definitely takes away that pleasure.
And also, I'm very keen that you shouldn't just, as a result, resort to buying ready meals and junk food, because it's very easy to just do that. And A, it's not very good for you, and B, it isn't necessary, because you can do quick things using real ingredients. I'm not super grand about it. I have no compunction in admitting that I haven't made puff pastry for years, because you can buy perfectly good frozen puff pastry, so why bother? Although I like making puff pastry, and once in a blue moon I will do it. But I use I don't think there's a chef in the country who doesn't have a jar of Hellmann's mayonnaise in his home fridge. So I don't think you should be grand about these things. There are lots of good products out there, but what you want to be is discerning, and also sometimes all it takes to make something really elegant and smart is to know how to do it. For example, posh restaurants at the moment, there's a great fashion for whipped things, whipped feta or whipped goat's cheese, or even whipped smoked lard, which is, funnily enough, absolutely delicious. And these are just dips. And, we all buy hummus all the time, but you can make hummus really quickly, and you can make much better hummus than you can buy. And so just knowing how to whip feta, how to what spices to put on top of it, how to make it look elegant and smart. You know,
So who is this book aimed at then, Prue?
who knows? I mean, it's sort of aimed at everybody, because it's just for people who love good food, who want to have good food, but don't have a lot of time. And actually, I've cheated a bit, because there are 1 or 2 recipes in here that shouldn't be in here. I mean, for example, coq au vin takes at least an hour to make.
Right.
But I just thought it needed a revival. So I put it in there.
Well, I suppose you might do that one at the weekend. You know, that bit.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that are a little bit more complicated to do. And there's one thing that somebody said to me, that shouldn't be in there. That's fantastically complicated. But it's such fun to do. And that's a way of cutting pastry or bread dough into star shapes. And it's just a technique. It's really simple to learn. And if you do it, you feel so incredibly proud of yourself, because it looks like some fancy pastry chef did it.
Well, when did you start to fall in love with food then? Was this from your family or what?
No, not at all. I mean, I was very greedy as a child, and we ate very well. I grew up in South Africa, and so I had a rather privileged background. But when I got to Paris, where I went to university, I really realized how important ingredients were, and how interesting cooking was. It had never, ever occurred to me to be a cook. I had wanted to do everything from teach riding to be an actress to I went to drama school and all sorts of stuff. But it wasn't until I got to Paris that I realized that cooking was really interesting. And it was mostly by just watching the woman that I worked for, because I was au pair. I looked after 2 little children. And this woman cooked so beautifully for her kids. And they ate exactly the same food as we ate. So they never got special children's food. You know, if we were having steak and salad, they'd get steak and salad, only they were tiny and beautifully cooked.
I mean, the cooking culture, the food culture, I suppose, in France and Italy, probably you would say the same. You know, we look at with great admiration, and we often sort of contrast with the way things are in the UK. Do you think, I mean, we have some great restaurants in the UK now, and certainly in Scotland, but do you think at that base level, in the home, do you think our food culture is improving or not?
Overall, I'd say not, because the rise of junk food has been so inexorable and so difficult to resist. And because we don't teach cooking in schools anymore, or very little, and people don't know how to cook. And so they're forced into buying ready meals. And, you know, I mean, it really is an absolute tragedy, because, you know, we have I don't want to be too pompous about it, but we have the most amazing obesity crisis in the UK. And we could easily fix it if we just got children to love good food. And the way to do that is by teaching them to cook and teaching them about food.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jamie Oliver got on that crusade many, many years ago now. You know...
And lots of us have been doing it. I mean, I've been doing it for 50 years. Jamie, about the same.
Why do you think it's so resistant?
Because, well, I don't know, governments always have other things to do, but I think they're beginning to realize just how important food is. And I think people like, you know, Tim Spector and some of the nutritionists have been banging on about how dangerous it is to eat nothing but ultra-processed food, because it really doesn't feed your guts properly. You have bacteria in your...
it's not quality nutrition.
No.
Yeah. Well, this latest book of yours is all about trying to encourage people and trying to show people that you can, you know, create nutritious food from home, and it's, you know, not going to take you forever, and it's not going to be too complicated. I mean, can I ask you, what is your favourite low fuss, minimum fuss, sort of midweek? I would call it my tea. I'm sure you don't call it your tea, but evening meal.
Well, there are lots of things in here, but there's sort of charred leeks with a puy lentil vinaigrette, which is so simple, but it is absolutely delicious. And there are lots of things like there's a mushroom, spinach, and Gruyere toasted sandwich, which is a great midweek. But you know what I'm so thrilled about with this book is the photographs. I think I've written 15 cookbooks now, and I have never had a photographer who absolutely got it. I mean, they are just beautiful. I'm looking at it now, and I just think there's not a photograph that doesn't make me want to do it. And they are all real. I mean, we cooked the thing, put it under the camera, and took it. We didn't fiddle around with it. We didn't cheat in any way.
Yeah.
And so, if you look at the pictures, you too can do it, I promise you.
There is something wonderful about a cookbook. I mean, of course, people have access to lots of recipes online and, often use that. But there is something about a beautiful cookbook with all the beautiful pictures, as you say, that is just really special. And you're going on a book tour. You're going to have, I think, is it 3 or 4 dates in Scotland, sort of middle of November?
It is exactly in November. And then I'm going all over the UK and then to the States. So I must say, I'm very pleased with the publishers who are putting a bit of effort behind it.
Yeah. You're certainly not doing much to slow down, are you, Prue?
No, I don't seem to be. So that's why I need this book.
And Bake Off, are you still enjoying Bake Off? It returned.
I absolutely love it. I mean, who wouldn't love it? I mean, what's not to like? It's fun. It's a lovely program. It's a great company. And we all had a very good time, and I don't have to work very hard. I spend quite a lot of time writing or snoozing or something because we have to. Paul and I have to wait for the bakers to bake, so we have quite a lot of free time. Yeah. So it's not a great strain. It's not like, I've just finished a Saturday morning ITV program, the second series of it's called Prue Leith's Cotswold Kitchen, and that's hard work because it's all me, and I'm there day after day, all day, except that I book a nap in the afternoon.
Do you?
in the call sheet it says Prue's, and then everybody has to be quiet because it's all filmed in my house.
Prue's snooze.
Prue's snooze. And you know what? It turns out all the crew like it too because they get an hour off and they have a proper lunch and they quite enjoy it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Well, Prue, thank you very much indeed. Life's Too Short to Stuff a Mushroom. Really good food without the fuss. Comes out on the 10th of October. And as I say, Prue will be in Scotland. I think it's Melrose St Andrews, Edinburgh and Corbridge in the middle of November. Thank you very much, Prue. It's lovely to speak to you.
I've been so nice. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We've started on this show, we've become a big success. We've won awards on top the polls, you've said that we're the best. We don't want to argue because you lot pay our wages, so we'll agree and say that we're the best show on in ages. The Chris Moyle Show, the best show on in ages.
I was smiling to myself there speaking to the lovely Dame Prue Leith. And cooking obviously just runs through her DNA, doesn't it? But when I asked her, what's your simple supper, your simple midweek tea, I was kind of embarrassed for myself when she said charred leeks with a lentil puree. Was it charred leeks with a lentil puree? And I'm thinking, I was thinking more beans on toast. Yes, not very. So yeah, what is your simple midweek no fuss supper, everyone? And if everyone else says charred leeks and lentil puree, I'm going to be really, really embarrassed. What was the other thing? It sounded lovely, actually. It was a mushroom and Gruyere and something toasty. I'm quite into that. But 80295, what is your simple, no fuss midweek tea? This is not going to be good for me, I'm sure it is. Coming up very shortly.
I've just arrived at Europe's most...
You're listening to BBC Radio Scotland. It's Connie McLaughlin.
Chris, play some music, will you?
you make me feel. Got my motor running, one touch and I'm done in. So much sexy fun in how you make me feel. You make me feel like everything's okay every day. You make me feel like everything's alright every night. I'm addicted to you. Nothing about me is restricted to you. I can't wait to see what you're fixing to do. 'Cause I know whatever it is, it's gonna feel better. Said I know whatever it is, it's gonna feel better. Better, 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 better. Oh. You make me feel like everything's okay every day. Don't you know you make me feel like everything's alright every night? Y'all break it down a little bit. You make me feel like everything's okay every day. Yes. You make me feel like everything's alright every night. Okay every day. Alright every night. It's gonna be okay every day. It's gonna be alright every night. You're good right now. Yeah, start it up again. How you make me feel like everything's feel like I wanna be with you, baby. I wanna be with you right now. Everything's alright every night. How you make me feel. Oh, baby. Everything's okay. Feels so good. Feels so good. Everything's alright. Don't stop. It feels real good, baby. Everything's okay. How you make me feel. How you make me feel.
You are listening to Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Broadcasting across the United Kingdom and the world.
After my description of Pruleith's recipe there, Caitlin, our foodie producer, who knew, said it's not charred leeks with a puree of lentils. It was, I never know how to pronounce that. It's P-U-Y it's pronounced, isn't it? P-U-Y lentils. So it was charred leeks with lentils and a separate vinaigrette. Well, I do apologise. I really do. I'll be making that for my midweek tea this week. Probably not. Do get in touch with yours. Your simple, no fuss, easy peasy midweek tea. 80295. Travel expert Simon Calder is with us. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning. Can I bring you some lentil news, which is that Le Puy, where those lentils come from, is well worth going to. It's southwest of Lyon, in the kind of uplands of France. Absolutely beautiful. But the only time I've ever been there was the only time I've ever had tripe. And I'd been picked up somewhere on the... I was hitchhiking, obviously, picked up somewhere on the southern French coast with this lovely couple going to Le Puy saying, you must come and stay with us and we'll also cook you dinner. And they said it's le tripe. And obviously, in those situations, you have no choice but to chew and chew and chew. Anyway, that's not important right now. I could have done with some lentils and indeed some charred leeks.
Well, yeah, but I'm liking it. Do the pronunciation for me again, because I need to get this right.
Well, I'm going to say Le Puy.
Le Puy.
But I'm from Crawley, and there may well be people who are not, who can say it better than I can.
OK, so I'm Puy lentils. Does that sound good?
That sounds very
Jolly
good. I assume you are French, a little known.
Mais oui.
Les Adams.
So what's your midnight... I keep saying midnight tea, midweek tea.
Oh, you're going to judge me. I know you're doing salmon later. I've only recently found out that it is possible to microwave salmon and microwave pasta.
Stop it.
It's true.
Even I wouldn't do that.
I know. But honestly, sometimes you have to.
You don't?
I do, yeah. and it's fine.
Microwave pasta?
Yeah, you try it.
I just don't know how to. What, like dried pasta?
You just put the pasta and some water. I can't remember if you boil the water first. I'm not. It's just it works, and it's kind of 85% as good as the proper pot boiled stuff.
Oh my goodness!
So, yeah, I mean, don't tell any Italians, but it's fine. And yeah, for exactly the situations where other people are thinking beans on toast, I'm thinking I must microwave some pasta.
Well, do you know what? I am changing my "What is your midweek tea" to "What is your greatest culinary crime?" because that is a culinary crime that you have just
against mankind
that you've just expressed there, Simon. So this is a new one, folks. What is your greatest culinary crime? 80295. I must say I put old tea in the microwave. Some people don't like that, but I'm rather fond of
absolutely,
that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very good, yeah, right.
80295. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking travel.
Yes.
We're supposed to be talking travel. And I know you wanted to talk, Simon, about the situation in Cyprus. And as it happens, we do have a text in from Jordan Perth, whose daughter is due to go to Cyprus on Saturday and who is very concerned about the present situation in Lebanon. What is the situation?
Right, I absolutely understand people's concern, and obviously, as the BBC has been reporting, there are terrible things happening in terms of the humanitarian disaster unfolding in Lebanon. The advice from the British government is that any British citizens should leave immediately. And there are 700 troops who have been moved to Cyprus, where the UK already has a couple of bases in case they need to go in and help evacuate the UK nationals. And just there are still flights leaving from Beirut airport, but they're very, very heavily booked, as you would imagine. Now, if you look on a map, you will see that the lovely resort of Ayia Napa is about 100 miles away from the Lebanese coast. And that sort of distance, you might be thinking, well, this is potentially dangerous. But I would very, very comfortably go there. I've just checked the UK Foreign Office advice, and it was last updated in June. They don't have any particular concerns about the terrible violence overflowing there. Of course, Lebanon itself, as well as neighbouring Syria and Israel, are very much on the no-go list. But actually, other places where people might be very concerned about going, like Jordan, like Egypt, are open for business. And again, I would happily go to both of those places. Indeed, it would be a very good time to go, both from the point of view of enjoying these places with regrettably lower crowds than normal, and also kind of supporting the local people who absolutely depend on tourism.
I guess, though, people might be concerned that the situation might change very rapidly.
Yes, I absolutely understand that concern. And Yet I cannot see any circumstances, and I'm not a geopolitical expert, but if I'm sort of guided by the Foreign Office advice, I can't see circumstances in which anybody who's having a holiday in Cyprus would be at any threat from what is happening there. Similarly, there's still flights going near the region, but not, of course, anywhere directly over Lebanon or Israel or indeed Syria. Flights operating absolutely normally. And worth saying that anybody who is concerned, you will not have any kind of right to cancel legally. It's possible that a holiday company, here we are just going into October, will say, going in the next couple of weeks, we've actually got some alternative locations where you can go to and just sort of pay the difference. So that would be a possibility. And if you are really concerned, then do ask your travel company. But it's not something that, for example, travel insurance would cover. Right. So
they're not obliged to make a switch, and your travel insurance wouldn't cover. That was exactly what I was going to ask you. Joan in Perth, if you get any other questions on that, Simon, the phone lines are open. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to speak to Simon Calder, or you can text 80295. The advice at the moment is very much go and enjoy your holiday in Cyprus. There doesn't seem to be any reason not to go and do that. But as you say, Simon, people will be watching the news and very concerned about what they see. So it's really understandable that there might be a level of concern there.
Yes.
Simon, we'll speak after 11. The lines are open now, 08085 92 95 00. You can text 80295. I'm still reeling, I have to say, Simon, from your culinary crime.
Well, yes, I just need to say that I will only be giving travel advice, not cookery advice, just to be absolutely clear.
I think we've cleared that up. You'll be telling us you put tomato ketchup on it next. I don't know.
No, I don't.
No, never. Thank you, Simon. Simon Calder there. What is your culinary crime? Come on, confess. We've had the wonderful Dame Prue Leith on the programme. She is a mistress of the kitchen. It just comes to her naturally, but there are those of us who are not so blessed. So come on, let's fess up your culinary crimes. Microwaving your salmon and your pasta, I think, is pretty high up there. 80295 is the text number. I want some confessions. I don't want you all sitting there going, no, I char my leeks and pew my lentils. I know it's not that. I'm only being funny.
When it feels like the world is on your shoulders and all of the madness has got you going crazy, it's time to get out, step out into the street where all of the action is right there at your feet. Well, I know a place where we can dance the whole night away underneath the electric stars. Just come with me and we can shake your blues right away. You'll be doing fine once the music starts. Oh, feel the beat of the rhythm of the night. Dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. Oh, the rhythm of the night. Oh, yeah. Look out on the street now. The party's just beginning. The music's playing. A celebration starting under the street lights. The scene is being set. A night for romance. A night you won't forget. So come join the fun. This ain't no time to be staying home. Ooh, there's too much going on. Oh, tonight is gonna be a night like you've never known. We're gonna have a good time the whole night long. Oh, feel the beat of the rhythm of the night. Dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. Oh, the rhythm of the Forget about the worries on your mind. You can leave them all behind. Dance until the morning light. Forget about the worries on your mind. Oh, the beat of the rhythm of the baby. Oh, darling. Forget about the worries on your mind. The beat of the rhythm of the baby. Ooh, forget about the worries on your mind. The music's playing, it's a celebration. The music's playing, everybody dance to the beat of the rhythm of the night. Oh, 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 oh. Forget about the worries on your mind, 'cause you can leave them all behind.
I knew I would be shamed this morning. I just knew that it was going to be happening. I thought, you know, I would say to you, what was your midweek easy, no fuss tea? And you would join with me and you'd say beans on toast, spaghetti hoops on toast, that kind of thing. And Elaine in Five says, my midweek meal, easy, no fuss. Gnocchi, crispy, baked with tomatoes, basil and mozzarella and pine nuts. And that comes from the book of Rukmini Liar, of course, very well-known Middle Eastern chef. Did a very interesting series, actually, on roasting tins. And, of course, worked with Tom Kitchen in Edinburgh. Everyone knows that. And if you don't know that, then you know nothing. That is all I'm saying. Yes, they fed it at me here. Of course they fed it at me here. I've never heard of her. But never mind. Sure, she's fabulous. OK, thank you. Heavens, thank you, heavens. Somebody's got in touch to say our easy peasy standby's egg and chips. Thank you, thank you. It is not just me. And we've got somebody getting in touch with a culinary crime. Thank you, John. I love a confession. Adding hottish spices and pepper to stir fries and not telling my missus. She hates it. She always apologises for too much pepper. Yeah, see, that's a domestic crime, actually, John. That's not a culinary crime. But I get where you are coming from. I can't believe we're now about to talk about salmon. We've just had Simon Calder saying he sticks it in the microwave. But there you go. That's the way it rolls on the show. 80295, your simple midweek suppers or your culinary crimes. You could take your pick. 80295. I've actually got one on the same lines of John, but if I confess it, I'll lose a friendship, so I'm not going to do that on the radio. Now, with a value of £578 million per annum, Scottish salmon is the UK's biggest food export. But beneath the surface, there are misgivings from some about its practices. Images shown on the BBC last week of tons of dead and dying salmon prompted an animal rights charity to accuse the industry of seeking to hide the truth. Industry representatives say this claim is false, and they will meet Holyrood's Environment Committee this week to answer questions. So where does the truth lie? We're joined by Kevin Keane, BBC Scotland's environment correspondent. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, Kay.
Morning. We're also joined by Tavis Scott, who's the Chief Executive of Salmon Scotland, and Joanna Blythman, journalist and writer, who both got kind of opposing perspectives on this. And Tavish, I know you've got some reservations about the BBC's coverage of this, which we're happy to talk about. But if you don't mind, I'm going to go to Kevin first, just to ask you what's going on, Kevin, because there has been, as I say, some kickback as to the way this has been reported.
Yeah, that's right. So what we reported last week was based on video footage that was provided to us by the animal welfare campaigning charity Animal Equality UK. And on Monday morning of last week, they set up camp on the land overlooking the Dunstaffnage fish farm near Oban and filmed on a long lens some of the activity that was taking place on that fish farm ahead of the MSPs visiting. So what they provided was video footage that showed a support vessel up alongside some of the pens with some workers on board. That vessel had a crane above it. Dangling from that crane was a large net, and that large net was scooping what looked like large quantities of dead and dying fish out of the bottom of those pens, and it was then tipping them into some huge yellow buckets. It essentially filled two of those those big buckets with these dead or dying salmon. It went back into the water several times to remove those fish, and then that boat went away and those dead fish were disposed of. And then in the afternoon, the same vessel returned back to the same location, and it played host to these MSPs from the Rural Affairs Committee, who at the moment are conducting an inquiry into the state of the industry. They're looking at the implementation of a report that it's one of its previous committees drew up, a report it drew up back in 2018. It recommended 65 different recommendations for change to improve the environmental impact of the salmon farming sector, and they're scrutinising heavily what of those implementations have been, those recommendations have been introduced. So there was a lot of scrutiny on the sector back in 2018, and there's scrutiny back on it now to see to what degree they've changed and what the implication and the impact of those changes has been on its environmental impact.
Just going back to the video footage, I mean, what were the concerns about, what was seen on those images?
Well, the organisation, the campaigning charity, said that they felt that it was presenting a wholly inaccurate picture to MSPs of the state of the industry. Now, they felt that there were tonnes of fish being removed from there. That the industry disputes that. They say it wasn't tonnes. They say that it was a routine clearance of fish, dead fish, something they have to do every single day. They say that the practice of salmon farming does result in some mortalities, but they say that at that particular fish farm there has been no mass mortality event, and they say that the number that were removed, the number of dead fish were removed, were a tiny proportion of the amount of fish that are contained within those pens. But there have been some big problems that the sector has been facing in recent years. Obviously, what we know about over kind of the historic period is the issue to do with parasitic sea lice that attach themselves to the bodies, to the skin of the fish, and can spread quite rapidly among a sea farm. And then they have to use, or historically they've often used chemical treatments, and those chemicals have gone into the water, and some say that's caused pollution. More recently, what they've been experiencing is problems with micro jellyfish that thrive in warmer seawaters that we saw particularly last year, and that again has been causing fish mortalities. And what it resulted in was a record 17.4 million salmon being killed in fish farms last year, more than in any other previous years.
Okay. Well, let me come to Tavish Scott, because I'm sure you're eager to represent your views, Tavish. I mean, is there a problem with salmon farming in Scotland?
Well, maybe I can take all of those points in turn. But the first thing to say, Kay, is first of all, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to at last be allowed to give our side of the story as opposed to what you've just heard. Secondly, we'd love for you to come to a farm. Why don't you come and actually learn what's going on? We've invited Kevin in the past, but he's never come on a fish farm to see for himself. We're entirely open and transparent about how we look after our fish. And at any stage, any journalist worth their salt is, of course, would be very warmly welcomed onto a fish farm in which you could deal with these issues sensibly and constructively based on facts, evidence and data, not on the basis of anti-salmon farming campaigners who, as you rightly say, spy out on our farms day in, day out. It's the kind of intimidation that our farmers put up with all the time. It doesn't happen in any other sector, but we put up with it all the time. And the BBC we used last week, this is all about a political campaign to put pressure on MSPs before a MSP committee meeting this week. And I'm sad to say that the way in which it was reported was pejorative and I think demonstrably unfair. It is a legal requirement, Kay, to remove dead fish from. There are no dying fish, by the way, it's dead fish. It's a legal requirement to remove dead fish from a sea pen, and that's what we do every single day, every morning as part of standard operating practice. It is no different.
As a layperson, Tavish, can I ask why there are so many dead fish?
Well, it was 0.1% of the total fish production on that particular site at Dunstafnage. So you're talking about many tens, hundreds of thousands of fish on any sea farm at any one time. Remember, we produce 160,000 tonnes of fish every year for the Scottish, UK and international marketplace. We are, as you rightly, and thank you for saying that, we are the UK's #1 food export, and our product, the fish we produce, is highly sought after in 50 markets around the world. And do we have some mortalities? Yes, we do. What's happened in 2022 and 2023 was unprecedented in terms of the El Nino climate change effect on our sector in the marine environment, and we did have challenging losses at that time. But this year, it's a whole lot better. Indeed, the survival figures for salmon across our farms in Scotland in 2024 are the best they've been for 5 years. Indeed, we publish these figures every month. No other farming sector does that, and we've been publishing them since 2018. So to Kevin's point about 2018 and the inference that we haven't done anything, quite the opposite is the case. We're a very transparent industry in terms of publishing those kind of figures, and they're the best they've been for 5 years. I'd love it if the BBC would actually report some good news for once and actually point out that our figures are significantly better this year. Water temperatures have been a little bit lower. That's good news for fish as well, and there therefore have been less parasitic organisms in the marine environment, such as microjellyfish, for our farmers to deal with. Those are the facts, and it would be great if the BBC would get them across.
OK, well, I mean, I'm glad to give you the opportunity to come and speak for yourself here, Tavish. I've got Joanna Blythman with me, who is a journalist. Joanna, I don't know whether you've been on a fish farm or not, have you?
I have twice, yeah.
Right, OK. Well, you hear Tavish there and, refuting any reason for concern and actually an improvement, he says, in the welfare of fish. But you still
the government's own figures, not me just saying that, Kate, but government's own figures.
Okay. Yeah, Tavish is in denial. I mean, Scottish salmon farming is a filthy, environmentally ruinous industry. It has been for decades. It's only getting worse. It's not getting better.
In what way?
Gave you a very succinct and detailed rundown of the eyewitness evidence, which is indisputable. So, but, here we are again.
So hang on. Sorry, Joanna, you said filthy and environmentally ruinous. In what way? Can you expand on that?
Well, it's the biggest, salmon farming is the biggest environmental disaster to hit the west coast of Scotland in my lifetime. It has ruined sea lochs. The wild fish in the rivers have become depleted. It's and interestingly, the only place you largely get wild salmon in any numbers now in Scotland is in the east coast of Scotland, where there aren't or hardly any salmon farming. This thing about inviting journalists to see salmon farms is just PR joke. I've seen them. What you see is they take you to a lovely loch. There's nothing, you can't actually see into the pens or see anything of what's going on under the water. And the wine and dine people, they'll put you up in hotels. I dare say the MSPs received some hospitality from the salmon. The MSPs on this committee would have received that kind of hospitality.
We don't know that, Joanna, and as you know, I would need to be able to check that out.
Absolutely, you would, but it wouldn't surprise me because unfortunately salmon farming, which isn't even now a Scottish business, it's Norwegian owned, is just one of these major problems for the world that has to change. I personally haven't knowingly eaten farm salmon for at least 20 years. I wouldn't give it the time of day. I see in restaurants and generally...
And what's the basis of your objection?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that if you've ever had wild salmon, it's a completely different fish. It's flabby. It's kind of veined with yellow fat. It's just the opposite of that sort of highly seasonal, lean-toned, lithe wild fish. And it's cheap. It's discounted all over the place. You'll get it on airline meals and so on. But no good chef or thinking restaurant that I know is now interested in serving farm salmon.
Okay,
I mean,
well, these are quite serious allegations, and I'm mindful of time. I need to give Tavish the opportunity to respond.
Well, I appreciate Joanna's against our industry. She has been for 20 years, I think she said, and she's spouted the same old nonsense that she's been spouting for 20 years without any basis of fact. Here's the point about the seabed. We are regulated as an industry, and rightly so, by environmental regulators, in other words, SEPA, the Scottish Environmental Regulator, on our on the conditions of our seabed. They monitor that, as it were, all the time. They've given evidence to the Parliamentary Committee about that, and it is just simply not true. It is just a straightforward untruth to say what Joanna Blythman has just said. On wild fish, the government's own wild fish strategy points out there are 12 pressures, or indeed many more, on wild fish, wild salmon, which is now an endangered species. There are no salmon farms on the east coast of Scotland, and yet the wild fish numbers are even worse on the east coast than they are on the west coast. So I'm afraid her analysis doesn't stand up to any evidence, fact, or any objective assessment of how we are producing food in the modern world. And we are very proud of the people who look after our fish every day, go out on farms every day. And I think the suggestion that MSPs shouldn't even bother to visit a fish farm but produce a report on it is to my mind, quite extraordinary, because how are elected politicians meant to ask? Let me be really clear. Last week, when MSPs visited the Dunstafnage farm, the manager on that farm told me that they could ask any question they want. Mortality did get discussed, despite what the BBC said, and when the MSPs were leaving, they had a final chance to ask anything they liked. So I think the idea that members of the Scottish Parliament were not able to ask any questions is not true.
Okay, very briefly,
Joanna.
Joanna.
I come back very briefly? If you really want to show people what's going on in salmon farms, you put them in a diving suit and send them down into these pens. And that has happened occasionally, and it is revolting what is there. There is a thick sediment from
not
the
true,
salmon
Joanna.
feed.
You're talking about something that doesn't exist. You are out of touch with the modern industry.
This is a major pollution for our wonderful Scottish sea lochs and rivers.
I don't think we're going to resolve this on the radio. So if you don't mind, can I come back to Kevin and ask you, Kevin, so where are our MSPs with this?
Well, they had that visit last week, as you say, on Monday, and the point of that visit really was to prepare them to speak to and hear evidence from representatives from the industry when they next meet, which is on Wednesday. They've taken evidence from a whole range of people already, both people who oppose the existence of the sector and those who are a part of the sector, of course, and a broad range of people in between. And then on Wednesday, they'll hear evidence from the sector itself. It is worth pointing out, though, that back in 2018, there was a whole range of reports published by SEPA, by the Rural Affairs Committee and by the Environment Committee, all of which were damning. One of them said that the industry had not changed any or not really significantly addressed the fundamental environmental problems since 2002, and it recommended these 65 changes be introduced. The whole point of this inquiry that's being undertaken at the moment is to see whether or not there have been improvements and whether there have been changes and whether the industry is now a sustainable sector, as environmental bodies and government organisations require now of all industries. So this is the evidence gathering stage of that inquiry. It will then produce a report that will assess whether or not that is the case.
Okay, all right. Well, we will await that. Thank you very much, Kevin. Kevin Keane, BBC Scotland Environment Correspondent. Thanks also to Tavish Scott, Chief Executive of Salmon Scotland, and also to Joanna Blythman, their journalist and writer. Right, we are coming up to 11 o'clock and
has tumbled into the oven and tumbled onto my plate. And a bean jus.
Jus de bean.
Jus de bean. All over le chippy.